feel like we could just talk about the TGL this whole show.
Maybe we'll slide it into the show because we're going to have some time tonight. It's going to be a laid-back, fun DFS Live Before Lock here, presented by Prize Picks here at Stokastic. We're ready to finish the season in style. I am Ben Reza. That is Geoff Ulrich. And we are ready to talk all things Tour Championship. 29 golfers, a lot of lineup construction questions, format questions, starting strokes. We are here for it all. We'll get into the weather, the minor withdrawals, and everything in between. It's been a hell of a year, sir. Are you ready to close it in style, hopefully?
I am.
Good.
It's, the playoffs last week didn't go so great, but it has been a great year. It's been a year of runs of top players performing at the top, and it's been a year of flux, man. Like, we're going to see an entirely different tour next year. So I don't know. Let's end it in style. Like you said, let's get to this. Let's see if we can land on some good builds for people and some good bets or whatever.
That's the plan. That's what we're going to do here, chat. You guys, I mean, you've been here the whole year. If you don't know by now how we roll, if you want to support us, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. And of course, I'm going to tell you about Prize Picks in a little bit. Mr. Jefferson, friend of the show, all around good guy. No problem. We appreciate you. We'll talk a little FanDuel scoring. And yes, I'm sporting the Citadel, getting ready for college football, even though they're not an accredited D1, they got an FCS level. But let's start talking a little golf. I want to ask you, actually, because we have plenty of time, what did you think about some of the news that broke? I did see and love and retweet your Scarfish push it to the limit style. PGA is finding money all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Seems like they've got to be pretty happy that they have a fighting chance right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, it's funny how money just appears sometimes when you really need it, right? But that aside, this is the kind of response that honestly I think the PGA Tour needed, because it had become increasingly clear, at the start of the playoffs, that when you got guys like Cam Young being thrown around, players who again aren't at the twilight of their career and have been challenging at majors and slowly becoming the face of your league, you're in trouble. You're under legit threat here. So the PGA's response, they didn't panic, to their credit. Jay Monahan stuck to his guns. He didn't bend. And now he's kind of come back with his own, missile attack, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Is that a bad form to talk about? Probably, but
yeah,
you know what I mean? He's made a response, and it's been a pretty good one. I think I like the fact, and some people alluded this too. I like the fact he hasn't just addressed the top. He's addressed the bottom, which is where I think, maybe the Hudson Swaffords of the world and guys like that don't matter too much, but you got to keep that feeder system intact. And by, giving some more benefits to players like that, you're going to keep it intact. And I think that, again, people forget that golfers they're sole proprietors. They do have expenses. It does cost these guys a lot just to travel and bring caddies and stuff like that. I know they make a lot of money. They do. They're still very good lifestyle, but I think it was smart moves all around.
I would agree. And it's a good thing. We will see what happens after this. But we do have 29 golfers to break down. That is because Will Zalatoris, who would have been an all-time, not that I thought he was going at any point, but if they got a guy like that, that would have been a problem. He has withdrawn. Clearly, he's hurt. There's no doubt about it. 29 players remain. Weather seems fine. Clearly, we don't have waves because it's only 29 golfers. But what do you see? Anything that we need to talk about on the weather front?
The only thing is, and we've had this with this tournament before, is the thunderstorms. It's Georgia, so the course could play a little bit softer than usual, but he's always just seems to play the same, which is long and tough. So I'm not sure if even if the course is a little bit more receptive, if that's going to matter. We've had winning scores between 8 and 14 under par every single year for the last basically decade. So, and then by obviously without the handicap. So, Rahm and Na went to 14 last year. That was actually I think the best since they did the Renos at East Lake. So I'm not expecting that it's going to be a big thing. If it is thunderstorms, it probably should be passing anyways. So, and it's hot, still pretty hot. So yeah, expect long course. Greens will be tough, big greens, but again, look for anyone to get it 13 to 15 under to be pushing for the win in terms of the non-stroke play. The non-handicap play, sorry.
No problem. Last question before we get into Prize Picks and start getting into the golfers. I wanted to just ask you, I asked Eric yesterday, Do you think in terms of Aaron Wise, just for Thursday, that it helps him that he plays alone? Do you think that that means nothing? He can set his own tempo. First round leader, probably a pretty obvious pick for a lot of people. What do you think about that, or do you not make anything of it?
I don't really know what to think about. I think that I don't think that it's necessarily going to hurt him. Like, I think that if I was saying like, where would I land? It's probably like 60% positive, 40% negative kind of thing. Like there's probably a little bit of a boost. You've got to think that him just going out there on his own, not having to worry about his playing partner, he's going to be able to settle in a little bit more. But I mean, I don't know, like these guys are so sort of set and just, maybe he'll be out there alone and the crowds will be on him. Maybe that'll bug him more. So yeah. Getting a little bit of a hedge in with Aaron Wise, first round leader, that actually makes sense. It's not going to cost you too much to do. The other thing is like Aaron Wise is actually setting up to be like a very pivotal player this week because he's, in the Stokastic projections. So I don't really have a hard take either way. I would just lean towards it helping more than hurting.
I can't imagine that it's a huge deal, but I also can't imagine that it would hurt just because some guys have not that I golf, but if I did, I would want to play fast. And if I had to play really slow, it wouldn't help. And he can play as fast or as slow as he wants because there's no one in front of him. I don't think that that's a negative by any stretch, but remains to be seen. We turn the page and we turn it to our friends who have been with us the entire show, entire year, prizepicks.com. I know a lot of you play over there, but if you are new and you're checking it out or you just haven't signed up yet, first of all, we're going to match your first deposit up to $100 with the promo code AWESOMO. You go to prizepicks.com. What you do when you're over there, you're evaluating over-under on various categories. So you have golfers. You're going to say, who's going to make more birdies? Say Patrick Cantlay or Xander. How many birdies will they make? What are they going to shoot? How many greens in regulation? All different categories. You can go over or under different golfers. I love the format just because, Geoff, we talk about this a lot. You can get an idea of how the course is going to play, and then you can plan accordingly and stack up your card saying, I think it's going to play easy. I think it's going to play hard and different categories. We know Eastlake really well. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, like Eastlake pretty much, it's generally one of the toughest. It's always one of like top 15 toughest on tour. And you look at like, the props have been adjusted a little bit this week. The fairways hit, they're up there, like, or they're down there, I should say. Like the highest prop right now is 9.5. Yep. And we've got like the best ball strikers and like Connors and Morikawa. And that's because the fairways at Eastlake, they tend to run around like 55% accuracy for the field. So, if you're backing someone to go over that, like you better make sure they're in pretty good form for that. On the other side, though, these are Donald Ross greens. They're really big. The green and regulation percentages is something I don't mind attacking with an over because there's been a little bit of wet weather. There's been, and again, like you've got some guys coming in really good form, and these green, the GIR percentages tend to be like tour average here. So.
I like it. I'm going to give one general piece of advice. I think pretty strongly hole 18 shots is a category that you should stay away from. The average on that hole is around 4.5. Yep. The prop for every player is 4.5. I don't see a ton of value on those. That's a really tough category. I would caution people, unless you have an angle that I don't see. I don't like that category at all. I would not put that on my card.
Yeah, and if you are for some reason looking at that, go with the shorter hitters. It's a long par 5. If they drive it in the rough off the hole, it's going to play really tough for them. I actually wouldn't take I wouldn't take any unders on that hole. It's a pretty tough par 5. It's a pretty tough par 5. Ben's right. Like it doesn't play super tough, but it plays tougher than like a regular par 5. So if you're looking for like a shorter hitter, maybe like a Poston or something like that to go over, that's fine. But it's not like my favorite category either.
Yeah, it's now if it looks like it's going to play nastier, guys are really struggling. The problem is with only 29 players, it's not like there's a second wave to take advantage of that. Like by the time Wise is there, everyone else probably be on the course. So I don't have a lot. I like these other categories. PrizePicks.com. Again, you guys know this. They do really great work. You can sign up and use that promo code AWESOMO. Now, let's get into it. We're not going to dive to the golfers just yet because I think the most important thing, we want to give you guys the best value here. We can talk a little about the course, but naturally, we don't ever have a situation where starting strokes are applied to the golfers. So Scotty Scheffler starts at 10 under all the way down to guys like Aaron Wise who are 10 shots back. When you see that, to me, I've said this 50 times, and this will be the 51st time. It's got a match play feel that it's a different format that people might not understand. What are your thoughts kind of on the starting strokes? Do you like the format in general? And then for DFS, how do you think it's applicable?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's better than what we used to have, where it was like a guy could win the tournament and then not win the FedEx Cup. I still wish they do something with match play with this, but I actually have come to like not mind it. I like the fact that we get an eventual winner, and it's like, okay, here's where you are, guys. Go out and play the tournament, and then at the end, that's it. So that part of it I like. For DFS, I don't know. Like we talked about this exactly. Like it's more of a match play. It's really hard to sit here and say like one build is necessarily like, you know, clear value over another build. It just feels like you need to really like mix in a certain number of combinations and just kind of take advantage of spots where maybe like the field is going to be a little bit lower. So for DFS, it's just it's a different week. Like, and you should be approaching it like a different week. I think that's the biggest thing, where you don't necessarily need to have like one combo in mind. And I think when you're building lineups and just looking at it, it won't come naturally to be like, okay, like the balanced build here is so obviously like we're getting guys in this range and this, but with the starting strokes and where everyone's kind of just, you know, moved about in this field, like it's a good week to kind of like mix and match and just like have a few different combos up your sleeve. It's
completely different. First of all, we've broken the ceiling of pricing. 13.6 is where Scheffler is. 5K is where Tom Hoge is. That's a different dynamic. There's only 29 golfers. So to talk about the format, and we had, as I said at the beginning, John Jefferson with the super chat, he was asking about the formats. So the finishing points are applied, but you don't get the birdies with them. Yep. You get the points, and then you can lose them as the guys gain on the field. So Scheffler's going to start tomorrow with 30 points, kind of like showdown round 4. But where he finishes, we don't know. And he doesn't have any birdies attached to the 10 under. He's just getting the first place points.
Yeah. And So like if Scheffler's a really good player and he's got a big advantage, but if he gets past like the 13.6 you pay for him just like shrivels up incredibly fast. So it's something to keep in mind. You've got to play for, much like match play, where like you play, okay, like if this guy can come out of this wave, you've got to play for different scenarios. If you're using Scheffler, you're basically projecting him to win the tournament. So then who are you projecting to come in behind him? Who are you projecting to make a move? Is there a better value that you want to take advantage of, like lower down? So yeah, I mean, it's actually more in ways it's easier than the match play. In other ways, it's harder to figure than the match play. So
if you go to someone like Scheffler, to me, there's only 2 scenarios where you would do that. One, you think he has an amazing, like you think he would have won even if he didn't start 10 under. Like you think he's just going to play great. Then naturally you're going to want him. 2, if you think that it plays hard and that finishing points are going to be a larger percentage of the overall points. The easier it plays, the more diluted his starting points are going to be. And the easier it is for the field to make up ground on him. And as our chat just pointed out, Cantlay won last year and was not in the optimal.
Yeah,
this is that's crazy.
I think that's happened twice actually too, where the winner hasn't been in the optimal lineup. So
yeah, like if that is something we have to keep in mind, it's not, we really have to drill in that when you get to 10 under normally, it's not that you're in first at 10 under, it's that you have 12 birdies attached to it. And that's baked in. You have that. This is the most fragile finishing points you can have because there's nothing attached to it. If Scheffler plays bad, he is going to crash so hard in terms of the scoring. You got to watch out for that. But let's get to it. I know it's going to be a little weird because again, we're talking about really different scenarios, but our first rank 'em is the big dogs. We've got Scheffler, we've got Cantlay, we've got Xander. They are the 1, 2, 3 in the standings. They're right all there, 4 strokes between them. Super expensive. Do you like them? Do you not like them? Ironically, and this is just another thing of this field, these guys are not overly popular because it's so difficult to play them.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you mentioned 2 reasons like to like Scheffler or why you would play Scheffler, and I'll go with the first. Like I do think that Scheffler is playing well, and I'll rank him first here. of the big three. He's not necessarily like the best value or whatever, but I'll take him over Cantlay and Xander this week. I think that with where he is and just how quality his ball striking and stuff has been, I trust him to, like, on Sunday be there for the win. So I'd pick him as the favorite, like, play there. For DFS, I'll side with him for the fact that I don't think that many people are going to play him either. Like, I think that Scheffler will actually go, and he is projecting to be, again, like, not, I know it's a 29-man field, so everyone's going to have ownership, but he's not projecting up there, right? So I like Scheffler this week. I actually do. I'm kind of the stance that he's the best player in the world. He's been hitting it really well. I think he's got something to prove after not getting it done at the US Open, getting beat by Cantlay last week, and like losing out to Burns at the Colonial. I think that he's a player who wants to, like, shut the door here. So I'm on Team Scheffler this week. I'm a little bit worried that, again, he's so expensive, and what we saw with Cantlay happens again, where he plays well, he wins, and it doesn't really matter. But I'm still going to side with him. And then I'll go Xander second for the simple fact that he's just owned this course. He's just absolutely, like, lives here. So
I bet Xander. I actually like him at 7-1 to win. I was stunned. I thought that he would be a lot more popular. If they're all going to be between 15 and 20%, I'm going to go Xander 1, Scheffler 2, Cantlay 3. Now, could I make a case for Patrick Cantlay? Obviously, he looked amazing last week. Knows what he's doing, knows how to win this event. It's not to say the one thing I feel extremely strong about, I really do not think you should play two of these guys in the same lineup. There's just no way to be different. You literally can't get different because you don't have enough permutations. Yeah,
no, I agree. I considered that today when just throwing around, it does not make sense. You've got to take a stance. Like, and like I said, I don't mind going with Scheffler. I do think that, like, Schauffele is going to come in higher than we have him projected right now. That's just my feeling. And Scheffler will probably maybe just be a little bit lower. So that's why I kind of like going to Scheffler, but that's just my feeling. I mean, the projections say, like, these guys aren't going to be that different. So
yeah, you're really looking at best available. And obviously we've got the tools with the optimal percentage to leverage and the ownership, which is super important on a week like this. So I don't mind starting, of course, with one of them, particularly if you think they really get moving. And if any of these guys play well, they're probably going to win the thing. The other unique aspect is Will Z, of course, is withdrawn. So there's a $1,400 gap to the next player, which is Jon Rahm. And then you've got, I'm going to call them kind of the chasers. You've got big names. You've got Rory. You've got Rahm. You've got Cam Smith. Some of these guys, obviously, right there, they're not starting as close, particularly with Rahm, but they're elite players. What do you think of them? How would you order those three?
So, I mean, Cam Smith has fallen into, like, Hideki category where we just like, who knows? I mean, like, coming off the injury, like the penalty. I mean, I think the thing is, like, he's in Hideki territory, but he's still Cam Smith. So I think he's very intriguing this week. This is a 29-man field. If we're going to get negative sentiment on a player and he's going to be like 10% owned comparative to like 20% owned to everyone else in his range, you have to take a look. That is such huge leverage this week. So I'm certainly not writing off Cam Smith. At the same time, like, he's going up against Rory and Rahm in this threesome here. I'll take Rahm first. I like that the putter heated up last week. Shot 65 to open here last year. I think he's going to make a real run for it. I really do. I felt like this last week, and maybe I'm just another week early, or maybe Jon Rahm just isn't playing as good as I think, but I feel like Rahm is close to reeling off like a big round or two. And if it comes in the first round, it's going to look pretty sweet. My big conundrum is I think Scheffler's playing solid enough to defend. And then I like Rahm at 10-9, and starting with those two, I don't know, a little thin maybe. So that's my conundrum, but I like Rahm in this range.
So no problem. I've picked Rahm to win 2 straight weeks. And I've been close without being even remotely close, if that's a thing. Like, he's been there, but he's never threatened. And I feel good about it.
Free on the weekend at the BMW. I think like 65, 67, no bogeys.
But he was so, like, he was just so far behind. Yeah, but having said that, I have zero issue with the good thing about Rahm. He's the opposite of Scheffler in this regard. He's going to start gaining finishing points if he plays great. Like if he wins, he 100,000,000% will be in the optimal, because for him to do that, he has to catch a bunch of guys, unlike Scheffler, who doesn't have to catch anyone. That's the difference. So you kind of like that. Rory's going to be the most popular of the three. Cam Smith is going to be the lowest owned of the three. I am really intrigued by Cam Smith. On a week like this, as dumb as it sounds, and I say a lot of dumb things throughout the year here, I really think it's less important about who you think is going to play well and more important about how popular they're going to be. Even more so. Like Cam Smith, clearly to me, he's a hell of a player, but he's not Rahm or Rory. I still think I would go, if he's truly half the ownership of Rory, I'm going to look to roll the dice with him and hope that he goes crazy on the greens and we just get vintage Cam Smith. I know he can do it. So I like that. To get back to your other question, Scheffler, Rahm, that leaves you with 63-75. There's just not that many options. Like, I don't think you can be unique with that lineup. Doesn't mean it won't be a good lineup, but I don't think you can be unique.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, and I think that if you, again, it just comes back to, it's the perfect week to just mix and match and put in like a few more lineups, maybe lower your buy-in or something and throw in more lineups. And you take, the Rahm lineups if he comes back, but then you take maybe the course plays tougher, Scheffler just defends, and you mix in some chasers. So good week to do that. But I like Rahm. I mean, and again, like if I'm going versus the Rahm build versus like the Scheffler build, I will say like I would side with the Rahm side. I mean, I think that there's a better chance that Rahm ends up in the best lineup, and he doesn't necessarily have to win to do that. Whereas Scheffler, it's pretty much all or nothing. So.
Yep. I like these guys, and we're going to get to plenty more of them who are lurking, because if they have the big week, they take care of everything. The guys up top, I don't want to say they're going to play conservative. I think that's an overrated narrative, but they do need not only to win, they need to also rack up a lot of birdies, just like everyone else. So it's an interesting dynamic. That's the top of the board. Let's get into the rapid fire. We're going to talk about all the players because we absolutely can. The next guy on the island is Sam Burns. He's in perfect position. He's a Bermuda guy. He can fill it up. We know that. Irons were terrible last week. Where is Sam Burns on your priority list?
Oh, Sam Burns is high. I'm betting Sam Burns this week. Look, I mean, who came back from 5 back at the final round of Colonial to beat Scotty Scheffler, right? I mean, it's Burns. I mean, absolutely. Like, gained 4 strokes putting here last year, struck the ball terribly, and finished like 20th. But I mean, what he can do on the greens just neutralizes so much. And look, 2 weeks ago at TPC South, when he gained 4 strokes with approach. So that's the kind of player he is. I do worry about him off the tee here, but the putter just with him can just neutralize so much. I think Sam Burns is almost just going overlooked. Like it's like, oh, well, it's Rory and Rahm is the guys that we need. They'll come back. But if you're doing a real like hard account here of players who can potentially win, like I would take Sam Burns probably right after Rory and Rahm in terms of like, I mean, if Cam Smith I knew was like 100% and he wasn't going to live, I'd probably put him third, but I'll take Burns over like Finau, Sanjay, I'll even take Burns at 5 over JT at like 3. Like that's how much respect I have for Burns and just what he can do with that putter. And also I think the setup with the greens, and someone mentioned this in the chat, these greens, man, are pure. Like Burns can absolutely go nuts here. So no, I really like Sam Burns. I like the fact he's 9,900 because that's going to keep the ownership down. That's the guy I would suggest. I really think that you want a piece of this week.
He's only had one. I don't think this is a big deal. I just want to point it out. He's had 1 appearance here at East Lake. He putted amazing. His irons were an absolute disaster. He's going to have to be better on the irons. There's just no way he can get away with that, even if he goes crazy on the greens. When he's at the height of his powers, it's approach and putting combined. It's not just putting and short game. He can. There's no doubt that Sam Burns can do that. BMW, that's what killed him. He's had the stage. He could have won that event if his ball striking was to his standards. It just simply was not last week.
Yep.
Now we go down to there starts to be groups. So we've talked about, and now we have a bunch of guys at 4 under. We've talked about Cam Smith and Rory. The guys that join him are Tony Finau, Sepp Straka, okay, and Sanjay. I'm not really into this batch of players a ton. I do think maybe I want to ask you, do you feel like you're missing something with Sanjay? Because when I think about him, I think par 70s, Bermuda, kind of technical. I'm not overly drawn to him. I'm of course comfortable with the play, but I don't want to just jam Sanjay either.
Yeah, it kind of comes back to my point too. Like, I don't know what it is with Sanjay. Maybe we're just, I feel like people just think about him maybe in like, I don't know if he's earned to be like,
how good
up
do you
there
think
with
he
Finau
is?
in terms of our respect, in terms of like what he can do. Can he go out there and shoot a 62? I guess he can, but like, I don't necessarily like if it's him versus Finau, I think you've got to give the edge to Finau right now. So yeah, I've tried to make Sanjay work a couple times this year. It just seems like everything is just okay, but like nothing ever really goes like crazy. He's been pretty good with the putter lately, but like Burns is a better putter. He's been pretty good with the ball striking, but like Finau struck a better. There's just nothing out there that says, okay, the big spike week is coming. I can really get on Sanjay here. And the other thing is like he's still 9,100, and there's players in the next tier who are going to be cheaper. So I don't know. Yeah, I've tried to make Sanjay work. I'm not really big on him this week.
Yeah, I do think
it does seem like it'd be the perfect setup though, right?
It does. And I just, again, it doesn't have to be a question that we need to answer in terms of how playable he is this week. But Sanjay is one of the guys on tour. If you ask me, like, is he the 50th best golfer in the world or the 4th? Like, I think both might be possible. He's got all the talent. At times, I think this guy is on the cusp of going like Scheffler and ripping off a major and competing everywhere. Then there's other times where I'm just like, he's a tour level player, but I like 0.5 majors. What's the line on that? Minus 250 to the under. Like, it seems like it's got to be to the under, but is it?
It's. I know. Like, he's
only 4
really
majors.
good. Like you look at him out there and everything looks good and he's consistent as hell. But Scheffler's like such a good guy to bring up because probably Scheffler and him, like if you ask us like a year ago, who would you have taken? Like it's such an easy answer now, but like it maybe wasn't that clear. So I don't know. Maybe M does have it in him at some point. Maybe we'll see it next year. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not to go on a rant. It is the last show, so why not? But like, I don't think people understand that if you actually allocate the majors and take the live out of it, like it doesn't make sense because it's like, oh well, Rory's getting a couple more, and DJ will grab a couple, and Hovland's going to get one. Cam Young, Scheffler's going to have 5 more. Cal will get a couple. Like that, you just set it up for the next 20 years, and you didn't even talk about Spieth and many other players. Like so, it's just ridiculous. And guys like Hovland, Neiman, Sanjay, they're not all going to win majors. Like it's really tough, and that's the reality of it.
Yeah, no, lots of good players out there, man, who like go majorless. I mean, look, like bring it back to like guys like Davis Love III and Fred Couples. Like when they were back in their day, like they were like the Schefflers and like the Finaus of their era, and they only got one, and it was like they were there a lot. They were top 10ing. But like they each only got one, and they probably should have got more, but they didn't. So
yeah, we're going to see some big names that maybe already grabbed one and will only get one. And certainly some other guys like, I'm not even going to bring up like Brooks, but it doesn't matter. I want to ask you about Sepp Straka because the one thing he has going for him, he's in a very unique position. He's not going to be popular at all, possibly sub 10%. And he is in a great position. He starts at 4 under. I think the easy, obvious knock is he's simply not as good as everyone around him. Do you look to that, or do you say that that's actually an easy fade? Because there will be people who just build thinking that the 4 under is really important when I think it's actually meaningless.
Yeah. This is again where like I think the ownership on Stokastic just really helps. I'm interested in Sepp Straka for the simple reason of if no one's going to play him, I'm going to play him. And right now he is projecting, I'll just throw this out. I mean, he's projecting as the lowest owned player outside of Will Zalatoris. So I'm interested for that fact alone. Do I really like want to play Sepp Straka? No, but he is 7,200. he's getting a little bit of a boost. If the irons show up like they did at FedEx St. Jude, and again, like, he putted really well on Bermuda Greens that week. Let's not forget, like, the putter was just a massive part of that for him. If those clubs show up, I mean, Sepp Straka will potentially push for a top 10. He's starting at 4 under, so extremely volatile player. But if no one's going to play this guy as like a very clear cheapest option at this level, yeah, I think you should consider him. Actually, it's a big week for Sepp Straka too. Like, when is he going to have a chance to get like, an extra mil in his pocket? I mean, he's got to be approaching this. You've got guys like Hideki out there, maybe just like whatever, trying to get through the season. A couple other dudes who may be starting a bit back. Like, I don't know what Morikawa's mindset is after shooting like 50 on the back nine last week. But Sepp Straka, like, this is big time for him, man. This is big money.
And he followed up. He wasn't BMW. He
wasn't terrible last week.
No, he wasn't. No. And it was the putter. It wasn't that big of a deal. He was better than I thought he would be off an absolutely gut-wrenching just debacle of a playoff. So those are the 4 unders. The 3 unders, we've talked about Rahm. Scott Stallings, another name we really would never have expected to be in the top 30, but he earned it last week. The winner of this, probably, my man, Justin Thomas. Cam Young, who sets up very well. And Matthew Fitzpatrick, who he had a massive issue with his irons last week, but overall, really good. I think this is where you could see certainly a contender emerge from the 3 unders. Floor is yours. You could take them individually, talk about them as a group, whatever you want to do.
Sorry, just responding to chat here. Yeah, so like, Fitzpatrick, Young, I mean, I mean, obviously we like Rahm here, but the rest of the guys to me in this range, it's kind of just,
I like Justin Thomas a lot.
What's that?
I like Justin Thomas a lot. I'll put that out there.
I mean, he does seem like, if you can get him for under fee now, I mean, I have no reason. And again, like, if we're not like big into him, I mean, we should probably be big into Thomas, because they're almost the same price, and Thomas is like clearly the better player. And I agree with you. Like, I don't have any reason not to like Justin Thomas this week. I think that if you're not backing one of the top 3 players in your lineup, like, you need to have Justin Thomas in it, because you need players like Justin Thomas to get you those massive birdie points and to do something special. So yeah, again, like, ranking here, we'll go Rahm and Thomas. To me is just like so obvious off the top. Stallings to me is really interesting too. He's obviously played well. He's kind of got that same Sepp Straka feel about him. A little bit worried that this course just is too long for him. And that starts to show up by the end of the week. So like, Stallings, again, like, not projecting with big ownership, but I think I'd rather go down to Straka and just take like the immense low ownership that we're going to get there. So I really don't mind Straka. I really feel like the guys I'm going to be fading in this range probably going to end up being Finau and him completely, for the simple reason that we have another player down there at 4 under who is going to be extremely cheap, extremely low owned, and then you've just got Thomas and Rahm at 3 under.
I think that Justin Thomas is a perfect target here, not because I think his floor he's a mess. The game is not in great shape. It's not because I think the floor is secure at all, but he's perfectly positioned. He's got to go out and be aggressive. And if you get JT, there's probably no one in the world when it's working, he can hunt him down, no problem. And I love that. It will take care of itself. I think Fitzy's the safer play. He's really good on Bermuda. His irons were, and maybe I get myself into trouble here, but his irons were so bad that I think it's actually comforting, because that's just ridiculous. That was his worst iron performance ever on the PGA Tour by a mile. I'm going to throw that out and think that he's fine. He's automatic off the tee. I think he's the safest target there. I wouldn't mind going JT Fitzy to start my lineups. I think that's an interesting build. You have plenty of salary, plenty of uniqueness. The guy I want to ask you a little more about, though, is Cam Young. He has to do it off the tee. That's how he does it. Do you think Eastlake will allow him to gain enough strokes off the tee to really capitalize on the talent?
I mean, if we're going by like past winners of this event, I mean, it should. It's been typically like a great hole or a great course for big drivers of the golf ball. Dustin, Rory, Rahm last year, obviously, like, shooting big numbers. It does seem to be potentially like the Cam Young just kind of slight regression is starting to kick in. The putter was hurting him a little bit last week. I know he still made like 17 birdies, and he wasn't legit terrible, but he had a bad weekend. And I mean, I don't know where this guy sits with the PGA Tour. It seems like he's back on the PGA Tour side, but I mean, I guess we're going to find out Monday, right? Like I'm almost just excited for this tournament to end so that we can get to like all the news that's going to drop. But Cam Young is another guy. Like I'm not necessarily going out of my way to get on. Okay. I think that like there's, with Thomas there and some other players in the 8K range, I'm okay. Like I'm okay leaving him out. It's his first time playing Eastlake too. It is a tougher, like little Donald Ross design. I don't think it's a bad setup for him, but I am okay going to other players this week.
I'm pretty indifferent to him as well. I think he's got all the talent. Ownership is fine. Price is fine. I just prefer JT and I prefer Fitzy. And we haven't talked about Hovland just yet and Neiman. So there's just a lot of other guys there. I will say, not this means anything, I really don't think that he's going to live. I really don't. That would be shocking to me on a lot of levels.
It sounds like with Cam Young is that he got an offer. Somebody in his camp heard about the offer, leaked it. And, he wasn't 100% decided. And maybe the Cam Young offer is what kicked all this into gear. And, but it sounds like he was at the Tiger meeting or whatever. And I think it would be just a weird choice. Why do you want to go hang out with a bunch of like 40-year-olds when you're
No, don't do that. And he's got real ties to the PGA Tour, I feel like.
He came up the feeder system.
His Scarsdale's right. I live right there. Anyway, no, I think the live conversation, maybe a little at the end. I think Cam Smith is gone. I think Decky is the true coin flip.
Yeah.
In terms of if he stays or if he goes. But as we work down the other thing, and it's not surprising because it's the final 30, big time names. These guys at 2 under. I mean, these are ridiculously talented players. Max Homa, who's been quiet lately, but great year. Hideki, who's a wild card. Jordan Spieth, Neiman, and Hovland. These are the type of guys that easily can get in the mix. It's just deciding, where are they at and which one do you want to target?
Good questions.
I mean, it's like if you look at the little like groups, I'd put these guys long term up against any group. I mean, these are 5 legit players on tour.
Yeah, and part of the reason why I'm not like super into guys like Finau and Young and Sanjay is just that I feel like a lot of these players in this 8K range are going to be like just a lot of people are going to make lineups without them. Like they're just going to be like almost like jump over this. It's like, okay, I got my guys at 300 to 400. I got those extra starting strokes. Let's just dip down to like 1 under and even par and finish out the lineup. So, and again, like you can go on site at Stokastic and look, but Spieth's getting a little bit of ownership at 7,800. He really isn't playing that well though. So I would almost rank him. I don't want to say last because there's no way I'm not ranking Hideki last right now. Never good when Hideki is losing strokes ball striking. I know that can flip and he's Hideki, but he's just too much of a wild guy. I just don't even want to deal with that this week. I'm very interested in Max Homa here. I think that, from what we've seen from Max Homa, this is going to set up as a nice course for him. He was fine last week. He wasn't great or anything, but T23 is just kind of doing his Max Homa thing, playing good golf. If the ball striking takes a tick up, if the putter confidence rolls back, he'll be in there. And he's just a player with so much self-confidence that like whenever you can kind of get him in a field like this, where not that many people are maybe paying attention or he's just not setting up as like the optimal play. Yeah. I'll take a shot with him. So I'm going to go Homa here. I'm definitely like Neiman as well. I kind of wish like it was bent grass instead. And then I don't really know what to do with Hovland. Maybe he's the guy we should be backing just because of that. But, I tried to make my case with Hovland at the St. Jude. He just doesn't really look that great. I'm going to roll with Homa here. I think he's the play in this range.
I have no problem. What Homa needs to do is flip his irons. When he was really playing good golf, the irons were helping. He hasn't been horrible, but they're not doing anything for him. No. I'm going to go with Neiman. It's just the ball striking numbers. He's been way better than his results, 13th and 8th, but he gained 6 and 7.4 tee to green. He's done nothing with the putter. I think he's closer. And the thing that I always love about Neiman, is he's so young. He's got a ton of experience. Like he's played this already twice and he has not played well at all. But I would rather that than not having any experience here. So I do think that helps. It would be Niemann and Homa, indifferent to Spieth. Like when if you're building 150, I probably would have all 29 golfers. And so you can get some Decky shares, but Decky's, dead for last equity is actually very high. Like if he doesn't have it, he's not going to be grinding it out on Sunday. Let me tell you.
Was it this year that he shot like 80 at the Tournament of Champions, or was that last year? Like all 4 rounds of 80. Do you remember that?
Decky does not. I'm a huge Decky fan, but when he doesn't have it or doesn't care, he's not super concerned about what's going on.
No.
Let's see the TO. Oh no, that was
21 or
2021. So
yeah. That was legitimately one of the most shocking things I've ever seen. He was so far behind. Like he was like 15 shots back or something.
Yeah, he lost 10 strokes putting.
Right. That one's burned in my mind. I definitely probably bet him that week or something. Anyways, I always worry about that with Hideki with these kind of events. So
I do think you have to consider, like, again, it's just part of his volatile nature, because when Decky has it, he has it. There's no doubt. Yeah. But to me, Niemann's just playing too good. Hovland, he's a tough one. He's going to mirror a lot of, if you really like Cam Young, I think you have to give some looks to a guy like Hovland, just because, again, his off the tee game can get it done. His irons were garbage last week and he can never play around the green. So he's got serious flaws. And you kind of said this already. He just doesn't seem right. Like it's just not all there right now.
Yeah. He just doesn't seem uber confident. And, Hovland, when he's not confident, I mean, he tends to just lose it, especially around the greens, right? Like he's always going to be pretty good with the ball striking, but that kind of just confidence where he's just like hitting it to 6 feet. And then like, oh, maybe he does something silly, but then he like makes 3 birdies. Like it's just not really there. So I don't know. I'm fine fading him.
Yeah, I'm not. Again, not crazy. Not a crazy strong take there. I will say this is the type of week though. You have to secure the small edges and ownership, leverage, optimal top 6 percentage. These tools that Stokastic and the team has developed are second to none. And on a week like this, I'm going to be leaning on them heavily. Last time I get to say this until the new year. Promo code PGA live before lock, 50% off platinum. So what does that mean? You come in for the week, but it's not just PGA. You're going to get college football. You're going to get all the other stuff. We've got baseball and NFL and everything else. It's a great opportunity to get inside the ropes. Check us out for a week and you're getting 50% off with the promo code PGA live before lock. Go to stokastic.com/join. Type that in, save some money. Come hang out in Discord as well. Get in the Discord. It's always a good time. All right. Now, there's still a bunch of golfers left, and these guys, I know logically it seems like they're out of it. 72 holes to make up 9 strokes is not that big of a deal. If you play well, you can easily do it. Morikawa, Billy Ho, Tom Hoagie, Corey Connors, Brian Harmon. The quality of golfers starts to regress a little. But certainly, of course, Morikawa is an elite name. The rest of them, Tom Hoagie's the cheapest guy in the field. So you have something to work with here.
Yeah, absolutely. This range is really weird because like you've got Morikawa up there. Connors is up there in terms of price. Connors actually more than Morikawa, which is kind of hilarious, I guess. I'm just on the face of things, but those guys are up at 8K, but then you've got Tom Hoagie down there at 5K, like the bare minimum. He's not even in the last handicap group. So Tom Hoagie not getting much respect. I don't know. Like Tom Hoagie, I'd feel fine using him this week. I really would. He gained 7 strokes on approach, in Minnesota, like last month. I mean, the game's here and there, whatever. But he grinded his way to the Tour Championship, and he's here now. And it's just freewheeling with these guys. We see it every year. So again, not a guy I'd be going out of my way to play, but if you don't want 100% Aaron Wise, and he's a guy I'd feel okay mixing in. I do like Connors. I think it's a really good setup.
Yep.
His ball striking has really popped up towards the end of the year. If he was cheaper, it's a double-edged sword with Connors. If he was cheaper, it'd be so much better. But if he was cheaper, everyone would play him too. So I think that mixing in some Corey Connors is a very good idea. And a player like I'm actually kind of interested in potentially in betting in the without strokes market as well. I think he's playing that well. I think that he'll be aggressive starting at the 1 under category. And player I'm pretty bullish on. I will say this, the player I'm most interested in this range, and that I think is potentially like should be your biggest target for DFS, is Brian Harman.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look who, I mean, again, I come back to last year. Brian Harman just screams Kevin Na to me, where he'll get hot on these greens with the putter. He's a really fierce competitor. He's been playing well. He's got confidence. Not forget, he was T6 at the Open a couple last month. His irons have been good, which is what we need from Harman. If the putter shows up and the irons stay, which they've been, I think he can absolutely get to like 12, 1400 and make you a ton of birdies. And he's 5,700. And he's in that range where everyone's going to Aaron Wise. I really like Brian Harman this week. I think he's really good GPP play.
Interesting. Listen, if you can find someone, and I'm the biggest Aaron Wise fan out there, but when you're talking about these guys at the bottom, if you can find anyone, roll the dice. It doesn't mean you can't play Aaron Wise, but the guy right next to him is going to be way less popular. And you do make the case. Morikawa to me is the toughest one because he stands out from a talent standpoint. I don't know where the game is at, really. I liked him last week. Some of it is masked because of the blow-up hole, but him and Connors, they make sense as a pairing to me if you really want to lean just on the two best iron players down there by far.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any Billy Ho takes?
I'm kind of neutral, Billy Ho. Like, obviously the course history, if you want to pop him in, he's fine. Like, I'm not going to like go to my way to get him in, but if it's like a last guy in kind of thing, or maybe it's just like, I don't want to fall on like a really heavy player. And again, like, this is another thing for lineup building. You should be thinking about leaving money on the table because it's a 29-man field. Like, using Billy Ho and his immense course history here, I think it's fine. He hasn't really shown anything in the playoffs, which is worrisome. So you're basically just making a course history play, but he just tends to just do it at this course every year. So there's not much else to say. He's either going to, pounce back or not, but I'm fine with it. I mean, I think he's shown enough and just likes this course enough in the format, quite frankly, that I wouldn't doubt him.
The last group, the even par, the guys that are lucky to be here: KH Lee, JT Poston, Thigala, very impressive, Adam Scott, and Aaron Wise. Aaron Wise, and this is why this is one of the many reasons this is such a different week. Aaron Wise is going to be the most popular player, and he's $5,400.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, surely this is a slam dunk. I mean, and then crazy, Adam Scott might be the second most popular player.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's why I brought up Brian Harman. Like, I really did. I mean, maybe I'm just like projecting disaster. We both like Aaron Wise on this show, obviously, but you've really just, this is the week, folks, where it's not the same. It's a 29-man field. It's a different format. Like, I think it's a week where you get crazy, where you go off the heavy guys and you really take advantage of it. So it doesn't mean you have to have zero Aaron Wise or something, but if you're going to use an Aaron Wise lineup and use another chalky player, leave some money off the table for your last guy. Maybe leave like $1,000. I mean, I know some of the optimal lineups have had close to that. I mean, Aaron Wise, we don't really need to say anything. Like, Aaron Wise smashing it off the tee, sets up well for it. He's played here before. He's actually 15th here. I think he was in 18 the one time he's made it. So he's got course experience. It's fine. He sets up way better than like Poston or Lee, who are like shorter hitters. So
I get it. I absolutely, that's why he's the most popular play, because he makes a lot of sense. But man, you're going to have to do a lot to be unique with an Aaron Wise lineup this week. Yep. That's going to be very tricky. So there's two things. It's a lot easier when you don't like the play. I do like Aaron Wise this week, so it's going to be tougher because I'm going to have to work him in and out. I don't like Adam Scott this week. I think that he's vastly overowned. He's doing it mostly with the putter, and his putter has flipped randomly. I don't like the setup at all. When I look at his course history at Eastlake, he's lost strokes putting in 4 of his 5 appearances. I think unless his irons flip back, and he was good last week, credit where credit is due, but the 5th at St. Jude's was all putting. I'm okay if Adam Scott beats me, I'm going to have to live with it. He's an easy pivot for me.
I kind of like the idea of fading like the veterans of this tournament. I mean, Adam Scott is starting even par. Like, I'm not suggesting he's going to go out there and just like mail it in, but like an extra couple $100,000 there, Adam Scott, I don't know. Like it's that big a deal. He knows he's not going to win the event because he's 10 back. So yeah, Adam Scott is probably like, just looking ahead to taking time off with what I assume is like his, perfect family, and then just like getting ready to try and get one more major next year. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Now to the flip side of that, what do you make of the total wild card, a guy like Thigala, who clearly has no experience in any of this? We know you would think he's extremely happy to be here, but he's also probably motivated. His stats are all over the place. It's hard to glean anything. But he's got all the talent in the world.
Yeah. Thigala is a guy who you should just next year, starting in the fall, you should just bet like every year, every week until he wins
forever.
Forever and ever and ever bet Thigala. But no, for real. Like, I think he's just like, he's the gym rat. He's the guy who just, he's just good. He's just good at golf. He's like he's a player, man. Like it sounds so stupid to say, and I hate the cliches, but it's true. Like, he's just good at golf. Like he's good at everything, and he goes out there and he competes, and he's not afraid. He put it in that bunker on the Travelers, whatever. He's being aggressive. I like him, man. Like he's got a lot of boomer bust factor, but he could go out there and shoot 64 one round too, and just, maybe challenge for the lead in birdies or something. So I certainly like playing him, the idea of playing him on a week like this more than Adam Scott for sure. Thigala's trending in like the bottom kind of 40% tile of the ownership projections, like that. Nothing bad to say. I'm excited. I'm just excited to bet him like next time he goes out to a full field, because I think the win is coming extremely soon for him.
This is it. This is exactly what I was saying before. Like, in chat, feel free to drop it in. How many majors for Thigala? It's like, oh, Thigala, he's gonna get 3 or 4, no problem. Like, yeah, well, where are those coming from? Got all the talent in the world. I get it. I absolutely get it. And really, these guys, I think it's pretty simple. At the bottom, you're just looking for pivots off of Wise and Adam Scott. Whoever, if you want to roll the dice, anyone is acceptable in that circumstance. For me, it would be JT Poston, Brian Harmon. I'm going to tail you on that. And probably Thigala. Those are the guys that I'm really looking to. I think they can really roll it. All of them have complete, their floors are non-existent, but that doesn't matter. You're just trying to tap into the birdies, and they can all really roll it or really have the talent.
Yeah. And like all those guys too, of what I like about this trio, and you can kind of pick your poison, but they've all showed us something like into the late summer. Like, it's not like we're expecting, like with Billy Ho, where, okay, he won, and then like he just basically hasn't done anything since. Like, Harmon was good in the first playoff event. Poston's been good for like 2 months. So Thigala's just been good almost all year. He had like a little bit of a drop off, but these guys are trending well. I think they all have motivation. Yeah, I absolutely, unfortunately, think you should play them over Wise this week.
Yeah, that's true. And listen, this is showdown NFL mentality where you have to do things that don't make a lot of sense to probably win the big $20. Like, know what you're doing in your contest, because the smaller the contest, the more logical you can be. But as we get to kind of, the last 5 minutes of this PGA Tour season, let's talk a little about that building process, because we get a lot of questions in our premium Discord and here. Like, on a normal weekend, it says, hey, I've got a lineup with 1,300 left. Like, should I improve? And although that can work, I genuinely usually say I'd probably try to spend that money. This is the 1 week I think you can do basically anything. Like, you can leave crazy amounts of money on the table, and I think it's fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You can do anything.
It's not short of saying do whatever you want, but like it's pretty close.
It is.
Take some hard
Don't
stances. Play
Scheffler and Cantlay together. I think it's the only thing that you shouldn't do, honestly.
That I 100% agree with. But short of that, like you can get pretty crazy. Like, you can have, like Stallings and Straka together, because like no one's going to play them and they're starting together. You could play like a bunch of guys at like 1 under and then just like go heavy on the other 2 guys. I mean, you can pretty much do whatever you want, kind of thing, to get unique. So I think that's the biggest thing is get unique. If that means leaving stuff off, if that means like going heavier on like one starting stroke than the other, that's fine.
This is just a different type of contest, and we really need to adapt to it. Homa or Scott last minute, it would be Homa for me. Wouldn't even be close.
Yeah. I mean, again, like the chalk this week is different, right? Like it's not up at
$5,000 chalk.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not, you're not relying on like, a value Scotty Scheffler or like in-form Colin Morikawa at like 9,000. Like you're relying on Adam Scott, who's been suddenly found like this magic wand putter. And maybe that continues, but like if it doesn't, this course could eat him up easily. And then our guy Aaron Wise, who's just can be a bit of a disaster around the greens at times. Like, let's not lie. I mean, so who knows? Yeah, but generally the question, if you have any question about like taking one guy or going overweight on Scott or Wise or something else, you should go with the other. You should try and be unique. You should absolutely have your guys, play your guys who you like. If you like Burns to come up, if you like Rahm to come back, play them. But like, try and be unique with the other guys you're kind of coin flipping or whatever.
And with 29 guys, just to kind of further that point, with Aaron Wise, you have 5 pivots within $1,000 of him. You can he has to beat other guys in 1v1s. There is no pivot for Scotty Scheffler. There literally is, You're building a different type of lineup. So with those guys at the bottom, they're so popular, but there are other guys right there. Whereas I think up top, it's a little different this week. You can just omit the whole range. Someone at the bottom is going to be in your lineup. Finau question mark. I'm kind of indifferent to Finau this week. I don't have a strong take there. I think for me, Rory, Cam Smith, almost everyone else at 4 under. I think it's more set up than him.
Up top, Finau and Im to me are the guys that I probably have the hardest takes about, just from not wanting to play that much of, for the simple fact that they're just grouped with quality players. You're not really getting the ownership discount kind of thing, and you can save money and just get higher end players by going to JT at like the same ownership. So,
and that is perfect lead in to our final hot take of the season. Chad, I've said this on a bunch of golf shows this week, but it's just been a blast. I really love doing the golf content here because we have the most loyal community. It's the same faces hopping in each and every week, and that just makes it so much fun. Certainly we take like 1 week off and then, we start back up. If you want to give us one last push on the like button for the last show of the year, it would be much appreciated. And make sure you subscribe to this channel because we're not going anywhere. We've got so many other shows. And every time there is golf, we will be doing content. And I didn't even mention this, and now I'm going to right at the end. I shouldn't even be on the show because, Geoff, you'll probably understand this. Max Kiefer won in Europe last week, and I did not have him. And I have bet him for 5 years straight. That is not an exaggeration. And it was, as Pat Mayo texted me to celebrate, and I was just like, I don't have the outright.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about that, and I forgot. And then and to rub it in, I saw that Pat bet him as well. So the fact that he texted you about
smart.
It. Well, okay. I mean, let's not go too far, but no, I mean, that hurts. I have been there. Unfortunately, it sucks, man. You got a guy, you got him lined up. And the Euro Tour is so random with when guys win too. That's why it
was just the string of things. I've legitimate. It's not even that I bet him heavily. It's like a lot of, like, every week after this show, I go on and I put just a little amount of money on Max Kiefer. It's just kind of a donation, and he's lost in the playoff over years and years. And to see him win, it was like the announcers were talking to me. They're just like, what a culmination of 5 years. You finally did. And it really, really hurt. But I mustered up the strength and I made it on this show to tell you my hot take. 28-1, Justin Thomas wins this event. I really like that bet. I think that JT is a hell of a player. I know the game is not in good shape. Dangerous man. 28-1. I love that number. I don't worry about where he is. It's all about if he has it. If he has his game, he will be in the hunt. I like Justin Thomas. My favorite bet on the board, 28-1 this week.
I do feel like we're going to get something like that happening. I'm going to go Sam Burns, though. I'm going to go with my bet. I definitely Thomas is another guy, but I just feel like people are just like forgetting that Sam Burns is in this tournament right now and that he's 5 back, the exact same spot Rory won. A lot of respect for him, and his wins have been comeback wins, and you're getting him, potentially better putter than the top 2 guys. I think if Sam Burns starts well, you will see him claw his way back and potentially win this event. So I'll go Sam Burns as my hot take. And I'll also throw in Brian Harman.
That's
Brian Harman going to win the stroke play event. How's that?
That is a great hot take. I really like this Brian Harman talk. We've done some good work. Jason Day was worse for you. Yeah, that actually was worse, but the Kiefer one kind of felt worse. Friends, we have done it. Many shows up, many shows down. Again, thanks to Prize Picks for powering the show. Thanks to the unsung hero of the show, Tyler Zander, been with us the whole year behind the glass, powering the show. Really appreciate that. And of course, thanks to you guys for watching. For me, for Geoff, for Tyler. Good luck, friends. Enjoy and stay tuned for even more golf content coming up fast and furious. It's going to be a great year. Until then, we'll see you guys soon.